Welcome to the Internet. Live from the Marriott Library at the University of Utah, this is the Redline Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Holland, and these are my co-hosts,
Laryngitis Dunstead and
Alex Fielder. Today we're talking about the Little Cottonwood Canyon gondola plan and whether or not it's a good idea. And
all the surrounding controversies.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot, and now the ski season's calming down. It's a good time to talk about it. So
everyone around here loves the gondola, as everyone listening knows.
Yeah.
It's everyone's favorite project.
Completely non-controversial.
And then they propose other stuff, which is sometimes just as interesting.
Man, can we just run some buses and get a tracks expansion already?
Quiet.
Well, anyway.
You're spoiling it.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
All this after the news.
The
news. Honolulu's new metro system, Skyline, is finally open after over 50 years of planning and nearly 10 years of delay and cost overridden construction. The first segment, which is the most suburban character and runs between Kapolei and Aloha Stadium, is now operating trial service until such a time as the other two segments, which will take the line to the city centre, are completed. So far, the train has been a hit, meeting and exceeding ridership projections for the first week. So, although the final opening of the troubled city sections may be nearly 10 years away, the future is looking up for rapid transit in Honolulu.
Yeah, so
I'm glad people are having fun foaming over the part that goes through a field.
When things normalize, the segment one, when it operating by itself, is expected to carry about 10,000 people a day.
That's actually pretty good.
Given that it's fully automated, grade separated, and like 10 miles long, not so much.
No, that's only 1,000 people per.
Which is
We
worse
pulled
than
out
tracks.
on that. We pulled out on that slide.
Yeah, at one point we did.
Oh yeah, we used to, and we get like 500.
But once segment 2, which is technically scheduled to open in 2025, I'm betting about 2027. That's the one that takes it to the airport and kind of to the edge of downtown. Opens, then there will be like 50,000 or like 30,000, and then when the section 3, which takes it into the city center itself, is open in 2031, so we can probably guess about 2035 for that one. If it gets built at all, then there will be supposedly about 100,000 riders a day on the whole thing.
Lovely.
Jeez.
That sounds great if they finish it.
I wish the project ran smoother, because I know there's a lot of people that have torn into it. And a lot of people saying, why didn't we just build more highway?
Maybe.
I'm not normally one to agree with like libertarians who are ranking on transit projects, but this is unequivocally one of the worst run public projects in this country in the 21st century. You don't spend that much for a fully elevated system.
It's literally a concrete viaduct.
Yeah,
It's nothing new.
I hope the rest of it runs smoother, but I'm not gonna be banking on it. Especially the downtown section.
If you believe, they are working on it. They're doing utility relocations at the moment, but it's not under construction, which is very concerning for me, and I feel like it should be under construction so that it gets built.
That would be funny.
It really should have been like the trial, getting everything smoothened out in that first section, and then really getting into it and really hitting hard going through the rest of it.
The real question is, why didn't they build the city center section first, which is supposed to have like half the ridership first, is my big question here.
That's a wonderful question.
It would be nice to have an answer.
Instead of the weird suburban section that doesn't go anywhere.
I would suspect it's because the weird suburban section was the easiest part to build.
Well,
although
was it that easy?
Apparently not. You'd think it would be easy to run a concrete viaduct through the middle of nowhere.
Farm fields, yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Hopefully anything.
X amount of years.
Man, they should have built this in the 70s.
This has been the news trademark.
Yeah.
All right, so who's starting section 2? Or the show?
The show. I can start the show. So, now that Utah's ski season has finally ended and the conversation around transit options for the traffic-choked Little Cottonwood Canyon has cooled off a bit, I think it's finally time for us to do an in-depth look at the issue.
Woohoo.
Yeah, because it's funny because as the weather got warmer, the debate around it cooled down.
Bit of an inverse. Well, surprisingly, this canyon hasn't just been home to ski resorts. There's actually a shocking amount of history that's happened, and
crazy.
quite a bit of Mormon history too.
Contrary to UDOT's belief, the canyon is not a vacuum that contains 2 ski resorts and a base.
No way.
Just so.
What is Little Cottonwood?
And where did it come
You're
from?
not even supposed to be talking.
Did God create Little Cottonwood Canyon specifically for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and other relevant questions?
And which of the 7 days did he create it on?
I like
69.
I like to think it was a last-minute addition. He was like, "Oh no,
And
no, I forgot this. No."
and hereby he gifted mankind skiing, and it was good.
Praise the Lord,
It was
amen.
pretty dope.
Well, yeah, Little Cottonwood Canyon is the southernmost of the 2 Cottonwood Canyons, opening a huge rift in the Wasatch Mountains near the eastern edge of Sandy. It's a U-shaped glacier-carved valley comprised primarily of granite rock, and it's known worldwide for its huge snowfall and very, very steep terrain.
Oh yeah, glaciers, total last-minute addition. It's also a crucial watershed for much of the southern half of the Salt Lake Valley, supplying most of the culinary water for cities like Sandy, Draper, and Cottonwood Heights.
Yeah, which is why you are, if you live in Alta or Snowbird, because there are actually people who live in the canyon, not very many.
This is true,
You're not allowed to own a dog.
because dogs
Because
aren't allowed
dogs-
there.
Dog shit, yeah,
And piss.
and pee, and you don't want that in your drinking water.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen like the City Creek Canyon maintenance. They've got people going up there like pulling deer corpses out of the water ASAP. So I'd imagine it's similar here.
Yeah, Big Cottonwood also bans dogs. Mill Creek doesn't. Mill Creek's like the only place. But
Oh, that's because it's Mill Creek, and
Human activity in Little Cottonwood Canyon was largely
do that again. That sounded too ad hoc. Do that again.
Human activity in Little Cottonwood Canyon was largely industrial prior to the 1940s. The canyon was the site of a silver rush, and more than 8,000 people are said to have lived in the canyon at its height.
Yeah, so Alta and Snowbird weren't always just like, quaint little hamlets. There was like a
Mining.
lot of people there.
Yeah.
there was a lot of claims too. If I can find a map of how sectioned it was, and the names of the mines are also just so funny.
Gold miner's daughter,
Oh yeah, that's where the lodge name came from.
yeah, is probably a reference.
What
so.
silver does to an MF.
But in 1935, notable skier Alf Engen,
Yes.
Engen? Yeah,
Yes.
was hired by the U.S. Forest Service to explore the upper reaches of the canyon and determine if they were suitable for ski areas.
Boy, did he ski in the area.
He-
Look, Little Cottonwood's a fun place to ski. There's a lot of good terrain, even probably before you could just, go straight down a slope or whatever that
Yeah.
tour skiers do. And it's also one of the, the places in the world with the most backcountry trails that you can just walk up to. So, it's a great place to ski. And Alf Engen, who is kind of, the father of American skiing in a lot of ways, really liked it, and he was like, hey, you gotta build something here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he expressed enthusiastic support after having a look around, and several local business people soon began gathering funds to build the place. And as it turns out, the Wasatch Range receives uniquely fine powdery snow as a result of its proximity to the Great Salt Lake, and it gets a lot of it. So, greatest snow on Earth.
There's no
Greatest snow on Earth.
there is no I don't think there's been a year this century where Alta has received less than 500 inches of snow in a year. This gets a lot of snow,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
And
that's post climate change, mind you.
and that's
So as long as the lake's still physically
yeah,
present.
as long as we still have lake effect. which I guess people don't think about when they think about the lake is industry. But Outer Ski Area opened in 1939 with a single chairlift, which cost 25 cents to ride.
I didn't know they had chairlifts that early.
This was actually the second modern style chairlift in the country.
Oh.
Because modern, you could only do rope pulls for a long time because there just wasn't the technology. But in the mid 1930s, they invented the metal clamp deal with the hanging chair. So this was the second one in the United States.
Cool.
That's a big deal.
It's a good place to put it.
And unlike today, where you get a day pass or a 4-hour pass or whatever,
it's paper ride.
You paid 25 cents per ride on the ski lift.
That makes sense. What's that?
Kind of like that.
I wonder what that is inflation adjusted.
Yeah, look it up. I want to see how much that is.
Yeah.
If that translates to the cost of a ski pass today.
Oh, there's no way it does.
For 20 runs, because that's what you can do in a day, really. It's 20
that
runs.
is $5.50 a ride, which, not bad. Beats walking.
That's, yeah.
I've paid more for worse.
That is fair. Yeah. Well, Snowbird, the second ski resort in the canyon, wouldn't follow until 1971, and both locations remained largely local affairs until the 90s when they began to modernize their operations and attract more visitors.
So they had Alta had the first detachable chairlift in the United States in 99, I think. It was only a tri-chair, which really gives you an idea of how much ski lift technology has advanced in just the past 20 years, because we went from everything just being your 2-chair
Alta has a
lift.
Alta has a 6-pack now, they call it.
Yeah, and now everywhere is just high-speed quads all over the place, so it's really been a good couple of decades if you're a skier for getting to the top of the mountain.
Yeah. And that fuels into the expanding the horizons of skiing and attracting more people from farther away, because you now have magically higher capacity thanks to technology.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the 2002 Olympics did. Basically, we were like, okay, world, we have fantastic snow, come do us. Anyway, the resort started to skyrocket, and that's when they really put in really advanced and high-capacity lifts. And in Snowbird's case, a large aerial tram. It's a very impressive beast.
I don't remember how many people it can carry.
Lots.
Isn't it
several
80?
Dozen?
You can probably get 60 I want to say. Yeah.
In one go, which is a lot of people.
It's a really big ride
like a
too.
whole ass bus. Yeah.
It's kind of scary. I think.
Definitely bigger than a bus.
It's too big to fail.
That's because you're not a skier and you're not used to being suspended high in the air on a cable.
Yeah, I don't. I like the ground. I'm not a big air guy.
Sitting unprotected in slightly sloped back chairs.
See, I have been skiing before.
A few dozen feet above the ground.
Yeah, I know.
It's not as scary as the lift at Solitude, which goes down.
Oh, yeah.
That thing, it's the summit chair at Solitude. Because, most of the time ski lifts only really go up. They don't go actually down. This lift, it's the summit chair at Solitude, actually goes down. And the first time I rode that, I almost shat my pants. I was so freaking scared. I was like, what the heck is going on here?
Were you grabbing on
I don't normally use the bar because I'm
because most people
for
you don't need
17 years now, and I'm not scared of ski lifts anymore. Mm-hmm. You best believe I yanked that thing down and was white knuckled, pushing myself back against the seat.
Yeah, I can imagine if they stopped that really fast, one of their emergency stops. Yeah. That'd be no good.
No, thank you.
But, again, after the Olympics, they really modernized their facilities, allowing more people up there to park, sleep, eat, and just ski up in the canyon. There's big hotels, to be honest. Pretty nice hotels,
you better
too.
believe the sleeping and eating part.
They aren't like the hotels that Alta and Snowbird and Solitude and Brighton have are not that great compared to a lot of other more famous, like Vail. They have like 1 billion hotel rooms, but they still have a lot of hotels now, and they have a lot more parking than they used to, and they have, facilities and new lifts and all sorts of stuff.
Well,
And overpriced food.
It's not that overpriced.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but like pretty much most ski resorts are owned by Vail these days, right?
Most ski resorts
Like
are
the
owned by Vail.
canyons, right?
There's 2 competing dynasties. There's Vail, and then there's the other one, which name I can't remember, and they own collectively like 3/4 of the resorts in the world, and basically all of the famous ones.
Yeah,
That
and
sounds
they
very
treat their workers
concerning.
really well,
They
and
treat their workers
and they
so
treat
well.
ski patrol fantastically.
Oh yeah, and they're so good.
They're class acts.
They're so good to their customers as well.
Oh, I think they're not like super concerned about like taking oodles of money, and they're fantastic company.
The U.S. break up unhealthy monopolies and
makes-
duopolies, challenge impossible.
Makes me grateful that the ski resort I grew up skiing at is run by a public benefit corporation and not a large company.
And it shows in the lift ticket prices.
I was wild when I moved here and I started thinking about going to ski.
Yeah.
And I look at the lift ticket and I'm like, what the heck? That is $120 for 1 day? That's like a weekend at Bogus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the food's twice as expensive too. And
Cha-ching,
worse.
Cha-ching, cha-ching.
Yeah, we could talk about Vail for a long time, but
We could.
we're talking about Little Cottonwood Canyon. So
Oh, I forgot about that.
yeah, so
a lot of people going to go ski.
yeah,
And cargo burr.
yeah, estimated 2.1 million visitors each year.
And that's only in Little Cottonwood, mind you.
Yeah.
And they bring with them 1.2 million cars a year.
So imagine the big Cottonwood.
I'm imagining it's probably a similar number.
Yeah,
Big
it can't be that much
Big
more.
Cottonwood's a bit smaller because they've got less parking, which also means they've got less traffic snarls.
That is true. Because Big Cottonwood is actually a more difficult terrain to build in than Little Cottonwood, somewhat paradoxically.
They only have like 3,000 something spaces in Big Cottonwood compared to the 5,500 in Little Cottonwood.
Mm-hmm. Well, with this 2.1 million visitors, estimated 1.2 million cars drive up the single 2-lane highway each year.
Which means
So
3,000 over 3,000 cars on any given day, and as
And
many
way
as
more on powder days.
7 to 10,000 on peak days.
yeah, so just
On
that
a
sink
2-lane
in.
highway, which has a capacity to move maybe 800 cars per hour.
Yeah, so
I mean, theoretically, a straight, flat 2-lane highway in a vacuum can move up to 2,000 cars an hour.
If the speed limit is freeway speeds, but the speed limit is
Yeah,
not
and it's
freeway
straight,
speeds.
flat, and in a vacuum.
Oh, I see.
And everybody drives perfectly.
I see.
And there's
there's
no
no weather.
crashes
Yep.
and no weather.
Yep.
So,
So
anyone who is familiar with skiing in Utah is probably aware of the horrific traffic snake that this awakes every single day,
Every single
all
day.
winter.
Every
and
single day.
these cars are just idling for hours.
Literally.
In the red snake? Is that what they call it? The red snake? Because of all the tail lights?
I haven't heard that.
I've heard that.
Sounds fake.
I always call it the traffic snake of,
Okay.
Little Cottonwood Canyon. And it takes sometimes to get from the mouth of the canyon up to an actual resort over 2 hours sometimes on peak days, which is wild given that it's like 15 miles.
Gee, I wonder if there's a way that we could fit more than 2 people per vehicle.
What a concept.
Yeah, very interesting.
I
But
know. I should be like a Victorian
And
era.
also, there's not enough parking for all these people. So the road, people will get out of their car, like park it alongside the road, like 2 miles away from the resorts, walk up to the resorts, and then walk back down to their car later in the day. It's wild.
Never mind the operational and safety issues that parking on the shoulder of a snowed-in highway cause.
Yep.
Oh, and another fun thing, Little Cottonwood Canyon is one of the most avalanche-prone places in the United States.
Yes.
Meaning that the road is constantly being closed.
Dude,
whenever
I
there's
don't
a
want to
big
know how
snowstorm.
much UDOT spends on avalanche mitigation logistics because they're always going around the clock.
You'd have to.
Like, Every powder day, UDOT has been working the entire snowstorm, the entire night before, to just try and get the road open, if possible.
Yeah, and this leads us to the problem, which the big kicker is just traffic. Because both Cottonwood Canyons have become notorious for horrible traffic, with 2-hour-long slogs to each of the resorts.
Something, 2 people per vehicle in poor driving conditions.
Yeah, and obviously there's enough demand for other solutions, so...
And well, let's not forget the air quality here, because Salt Lake City
Valley.
and Salt Lake Valley is well known for having poor air quality, and so having 16,000 cars idling up and down Little and Big Cottonwood Canyons every day all winter does not help.
But there's no other way to go skiing. But there was an ad that says my tank that I drive is my own personal gondola. I saw it at the ski resort. That is an actual ad. That was actually the ski resort. It was an ad for like an SUV or a crossover or something that said, "This is your personal gondola."
Well, and it might be better if buses.
Whoa.
So until this year, we had UTA had, that is not we, we being the collective ownership of UTA.
We are the taxpayers
society.
and the voters.
Yeah.
What can I say?
So they had, 4 buses an hour up Big Cottonwood Canyon and 6 buses an hour up Little Cottonwood Canyon.
Which is a capacity up Little Cottonwood of maybe 500 people. They sardine can the things.
They really do.
It's
sardine quite can miserable,
things.
actually.
But they remove a lot of
great.
seats, don't they?
It's quite miserable,
Yeah.
I will say.
I would expect a ski bus to be like coach seating, but no, they just take out as many seats as they can, so they can just sardine can it.
And it's really fun to be in those for 2 hours in traffic, I will tell you.
I would not mind the sardine can, standing room only. I'm barely not falling over bus if it only took 20 minutes.
If we're
I think
moving.
90% of people...
You would be able to run significantly more bus service because those buses would be able to recirculate much faster.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
You could literally double the bus capacity just by removing the traffic snarls.
But kind of the reason this got so much attention this year is that UTA has the same operator shortage that almost everyone has these days, and the routes that they chose to cut first, correctly, I will say, were the ski buses. So instead of
non-essential and recreational,
instead of our 500 people an hour that we could get up Little Cottonwood, we suddenly had
a third of that.
200.
Yeah. Through the magic of extra sardine canning.
And so there were only 2 buses an hour up and down, and it got very bad. And
it got well past the point where you had to wait for several full buses to pass you to make it down the canyon.
In Alta and Snowbird parking lots for 2-3 hours every day to get the bus back down. And it's not like traffic wasn't worse or better, but that's not fun.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
It's just such a bad problem. So.
But UDOT, in their infinite wisdom.
Infinite wisdom.
As I wrote, our benevolent overlords. Here you read that.
Yeah,
benevolent overlords at UDOT Region 2.
Yeah, they've been studying this issue for years, and as much as they would probably like to just widen the road, it's not very feasible in a canyon as narrow and avalanche prone as
it is, but they piss off a lot of people and spend a lot of money.
Well, if you want to destroy 200 bouldering objectives.
No, like I said, they would piss off a lot of people, blowing up half the canyon.
And I'd like to point this out, too. It's a watershed. The chances of...
heavy construction and oil.
Yeah. The chances of a pollution nightmare is not minimal.
Technically possible, but would not going to fly.
Yeah,
not going to fly.
No. Something's going to happen.
Although, in their infinite wisdom, one of the alternatives they suggested in the Gondola EIS is widening the road just enough to allow buses to go around the traffic snake.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't solve car traffic, apparently. There's no technical solutions to that on a road with one bloody entrance point and 2 major destinations.
Yeah, well, They studied a number of alternatives, including enhancing bus service to as many as 24 buses per hour over the current 4 to 8 in either mixed traffic or on the shoulder, as Kyle was saying.
I think that would have been a pretty good idea because you could use the park and rides at the base and the ski resort parking lots at the top end as staging and just circle, 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 circle.
Yeah. They also had 2 different gondola options at either the Kai base, which is near a French restaurant, or near the entrance to the canyon.
Really bougie French restaurant,
Like-
we should say. Like, probably the most expensive restaurant in Utah, I think.
Cool.
I don't know if I'd go
I'm
that
going to say
far.
Walters is more expensive.
I would say Log Haven, maybe.
Oh, that's true.
Log Haven's very bougie.
Definitely right.
But anyway, it's up there for sure because it's like it has its own like tons of acres, to be honest, for a French restaurant. Whole ground crews, and
yeah.
it's a very impressive operation.
Comme nous parlons en français, il est très whack.
Yeah.
But either gondola, when completed, would be nearly 9 miles long, nearly 3 times the length of the next longest ski lift or gondola in the world.
An
Which
engineering marvel.
let's just point out how crazy that is.
That is objectively pretty cool.
American engineering and ingenuity.
Yeah. I would love if we redirected that somewhere more productive, but
Like a bloody tracks expansion.
Quiet communist.
Oh,
well, and then they also looked into a cog rail. So
fair.
When we say looked into, we mean that very unseriously because they did not actually look into building a
I think
concrete.
all they did was make a few renders, and then they said, "Okay, we looked
They
into
were
it."
like, wow, there's sure we could put a cog train up there. Let us do no further research on this topic.
No, it was
That's-
just appeasement, pretty much. Yeah, but
This is my section.
yeah,
so I
this
can
is
say
this
cog
is your
train.
opinion.
So here's why their selection process for the alternatives was a bit goofy. So what they like to say is that the reason they're doing the gondola is because, there's a lot of things people wanted out of this, improvement for Little Cottonwood Canyon, right? They wanted year-round they wanted access to trailheads. You could,
Yeah.
get to the trailheads without a car. They wanted year-round service. They wanted
Fast, environmentally friendly.
fast and environmentally friendly, and they wanted a solution to traffic. So UDOT has done exactly one of those things because is the gondola going to get people to trailheads?
No.
No,
No,
not at all.
and the
You would
bus-
need to run separate buses to accomplish that.
well, and the buses that they were going to run could have stayed in service over the summer and could have made stops at trailheads.
Easily.
But UDOT decided that the buses would not make stops at trailheads and would not run in the summer.
They
as
just
part
decided.
as part of their
Trademark.
alternative selection.
Because that's not like the easiest thing ever to do with a bus.
As part of their alternative selection because they didn't want to run more buses. And then the cog train was even more a victim of this than the buses were because they pretend like you can't do flag stops for trails and stuff, which is quite common in many, more developed rail countries. Like you can go hiking from flag stops in Japan, you can go hiking from flag stops in Switzerland. God damn it, you can even go hiking from flag stops in New York State.
Well, and let's just point out how awesome that is. Like, imagine just flagging down the train once you're done hiking.
Mm-hmm.
I would
Yeah.
love that. That just
Easy.
sounds like such an experience.
So it doesn't provide trail access. And then they were like, oh, well, people want summer access. Well, we're not going to do that with the buses, and we're not going to do that with the cog train. Therefore, they are useless.
Yeah, we could
They
just
weren't
run,
even planning on doing that with the gondola, though, were
No.
they?
because-
They are, I think, planning to run the gondola year-round because it's completely autonomous, so there's no reason not to.
Well,
because we,
it'd frankly be ridiculous to.
because we couldn't just run our bus service in the summer or whatever.
Right. So essentially, their entire alternatives analysis was based off of trade-offs that you don't have to make with the modes that are not gondolas.
Well-
Because they're like, well, we're not gonna. The gondola doesn't do summer service, but the buses also won't do summer service because
We said so.
reasons. The gondola won't do trailhead access, but the buses are also not going to do trailhead access because.
Reason.
And the buses, and then the other thing was fast and environmentally friendly. They're all pretty environmentally friendly options. The gondola
Yeah.
is, it's electric.
I'm going to be honest, even a diesel bus is more environmentally friendly
more.
than running the cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like everything is a more environmentally friendly option. But in terms of speed,
The
the
gondola
gondola
is not
is
fast.
by far the slowest option
It is-
available.
I'm looking on their alternative summary. It has the longest travel time listed out of all the alternatives.
53 minutes from the Calle to...
It says 63 minutes total, which I think includes driving your personal car to the base.
No, 53 minutes of travel
Okay.
from the base station to Alta.
That's not good. That is a fundamental limitation of gondola technology, which they should maybe
It's
think about.
very slow. And then, of course, they also kneecap the cog train speed because reasons.
Reasons, despite the fact that they decided that it would have to be built in a very massively environmentally destructive way.
Yeah, instead of...
So they're taking the
We're gonna get
downside
to
of that
that.
and the downside of a slow indirect alignment.
So basically, their entire alternatives analysis for this entire thing was bullshit, and was meant always to use the option that would disadvantage continued car travel up the canyons the least.
If I can
The
crap,
gondola.
on the bus alternatives again, the price tag for the enhanced bus service, like the initial capital cost, not even operations or replacement or anything, is listed as $355 million. How many buses are you buying?
It's like replacing the entire UTA fleet of buses, basically.
Yeah. And also for regular enhanced buses, the travel time is listed as 54 minutes to Alta, as compared to 36 for the ride in the roadway buses, which makes the assumption that it's physically impossible to reduce the volumes of cars that go up the canyon enough to fix the traffic snarls.
Which
Now they are planning on doing tolling.
They are doing tolling.
Which they 100% should do. I see no issue with that.
But maybe they should consider that they could use that tolling technology to fix this travel time number and make it blow the gondola out of the water.
You could feasibly do metering in the canyon, couldn't you?
On-ramp sort of metering.
On-ramp metering.
You certainly
That's what they're
could.
going to be doing for tolling the canyon.
So that would be the tolling.
Great.
Okay, because I assumed it would be a fast pass kind of
There
thing.
already is metering up. Or if you mean metering, the amount of cars that the
Yeah,
system
yeah,
actually... There already is. There's traffic lights at the bottom of the thing that only allow a certain number in at a time.
So the main issue... Because
That's not on purpose, but it is a
It is a
feature.
feature.
see, they should do it more deliberately. But
Which is what they're going to be doing to an extent, but they're not factoring this into the bus alternative.
no, but they should, because if you metered cars more and you had more buses, you could get significantly more people up the canyon
Yes.
just by virtue of it being a bus and people choosing to ride it because they wouldn't have to pay the toll.
And because it would
And-
come every 6 minutes.
Yeah, and
every
because it
5
would be
minutes
fast.
in-
And, and I would say we shouldn't do battery electric buses up there, just
That's
because
a very bad idea.
No.
which is a big alternative students and students from the Wasatch pushes up here,
That's fun.
Don't
The
put
technology's
battery
not there yet.
which is
Up
terrible. So
Very
just
bad
stick
idea.
with diesel because it's tried and
Or
true,
natural
and
I think they run the CNG
natural gas.
currently.
Yeah, that's fine. But
Run CNGs and
but-
diesel.
All right.
battery buses in the winter up a very steep canyon, I just wouldn't go. I wouldn't even try that because that's a whole nother issue that people will just
And another thing that
Exactly.
they could consider with the bus alternative that the gondola is not great at is in the morning when UDOT opens the road after doing avalanche control for the past week or whatever. They can just have a bunch of fully loaded buses ready to go and then send them all up in a row and then just send them back slowly to get the loop started.
Well-
Whereas with a gondola, you have that constant finite capacity, and with the cars, it's just...
And back to the buses not being able to stop at trailheads, you could have
The bus
You
stop
could-
at the trailhead.
well, you could do that, but you could also just run express ski lift,
Yeah.
ski resort buses, and then have every few ones be strictly trailhead.
With the
You
volume...
maintain the trailhead local ones
Yeah,
during the summer, whereas
exactly.
all the express buses go out of service.
So
And
let's
with-
say you have one every 15 minutes for trailheads, and then all
Yeah.
of the other ones are just going to be skiers.
the sheer vol-
And they can still get on if they want to take a slower bus if they care that much.
Or if they're not smart enough to recognize the difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, which is more likely. But there's there's no issue.
There's so many possibilities and so few issues. It's a road. You put a bus on it.
Well,
So-
and let's say the gondola goes down, which it
liable-
shouldn't.
It's
It
liable to have
shouldn't.
operational issues.
But
Like
it's
if they're
possible.
using artillery-based avalanche control, which they're moving away from, but they still use that now.
Yeah.
The gondola has to stop and do a full cable inspection before it can continue
Yeah,
passenger
which is
operation.
ridiculous. Because if you have a bus that's not working great,
That's not
wait,
a problem.
here's another bus.
Yeah.
Isn't that like insane?
And
you
UDOT
can
is
keep
just-
the flow of traffic. You can keep the flow of people.
Yeah, and UDOT is just overlooking these sorts of operational limitations of the gondola and ignoring everything buses are capable of.
Which
Or better yet, what Cograil is capable of.
That would
yeah.
be
So
cool.
let's talk about that real quick.
So I have what I think is probably a more radical solution for what we should do to Little Cottonwood Canyon.
Is
You're getting ahead. This is
okay.
Is this a beep 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 beep?
the first one. So I have some more radical solutions that could be pursued and would be both more environmentally friendly and probably easier to implement than just about anything else. Number one, close the road to cars and do a Zion Canyon shuttle. We actually have a precedent for closing recreational roads in Utah. In Zion National Park, the Zion Canyon Road is 100% closed to cars year-round, and the National Park Service simply runs an all-day frequent shuttle.
Not quite year-round, but like 7 to 9 months.
Well, basically year-round.
Any of the time anybody's ever there.
Yeah, because no one's
So-
going there in like January.
Seasonally round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they run. So what we could simply do is stop cars going up the canyon, have no more traffic, and then only service vehicles for the resorts, the vehicles of residents, and buses are allowed. And that's it.
That would literally solve all the problems in the snap of a
Traffic
finger.
disappears, and you can use the billion parking spaces we have at different track stations as an extended staging ground for all the people that park and take the bus, and then run your 24 or 40 buses an hour if you feel like it.
Yeah, and then you'll have all the resort parking lots, which are way more than big enough for bus staging.
And then you can put more hotels there.
Yeah.
or worker housing, better yet.
Yeah.
Even better.
And
yeah,
then have
yeah.
less stuff to plow and sand and flag.
Yeah, and that'd be very palatable for people because you still have the road. You could feasibly go back to it at any time.
Yeah.
Right, you could do a 1-year pilot, and when it is a big success, because it will be a big success.
It will be, because travel times will be solved.
Travel times will be so much faster
Parking
than they
fees
ever
and
have been.
reservations will be
Parking
solved
fees will
too.
disappear. You just park at a track station, take a trax train to the station where the buses are staged from, probably Midvale, Fort Union, or better yet, Fashion Place, and then feel like you're on a bus that goes straight up the canyon with no stops.
And if
You'd
you
probably eliminate millions of pounds of car
So
emission.
much carbon.
and if you live farther east, it would be pretty trivial for us to make deals with like shopping malls and stuff to make use of parking spaces.
And here's another thing. You can reopen the road to cars in the summer.
Concept.
Like-
Yeah, that would be literally ideal because a lot of people like to drive their own cars for recreational
you
purposes.
You can drive your car up the canyon in the summer to recreate, but during the winter we understand there's too much traffic, so we're just going to do buses. This is the easiest solution that would cost basically $0 in capital costs at all.
All you got to do is buy buses or use the buses we have. You would not actually have to buy that many buses. We have lots of buses.
It's a shame that UDOT.
It's a shame that you don't.
Because
Our brain.
that wouldn't happen.
Because
ever. Even
all
though
of
it's
this-
logically a sound idea and it makes perfect sense.
all of this isn't
and it solves
designed-
every issue they have.
This is not a transportation solution that UDOT is proposing. They just want a cargo burr.
Yeah. One issue I really have with the gondola is the gondola works group. I think there's got to be some fishy stuff. There's such a powerful lobbying
It's
group.
an industry group. It's not a
Oh,
grassroots
okay.
group. It's an industry group.
Yeah.
So it's run by the industry, so naturally they're going to have more resources.
Yeah,
I know,
that's-
but
that's pretty standard.
It
It
feels
is
like
a
something
little
a bit fishy is going
It's a
on.
little fishy, but not in a way that's legal.
And no
Yeah.
fishier than usual.
And there's no proof of anything too
Actually,
fishy.
there's no proof of anything
Yeah.
that goes beyond the scope of what anyone is allowed to do.
Yep. So, yeah.
So, and then my other, so that's a pretty radical proposal already, especially compared to what UDOT is suggesting. But I have actually an even more radical proposal, which is get rid of the road and replace it entirely with a cog train. And Americans immediately lose their shit when you suggest
Removing a road.
well, yeah, removing a road, but removing the only road, having a road not be, because you have to have a road to everywhere.
Yeah,
There's
sure.
But the fact is that in Switzerland there are probably 100,000 people who live on rail lines with no road access to the rest of the world.
And they haven't imploded yet.
And they haven't died. And in Perisher, Australia, which is Australia's main ski resort, because, Switzerland is obviously leagues ahead of us in terms of public transportation and things like that.
But Australia
is a little more in our league. And what they have for their main ski resort, it's called Perisher, is what's called the ski tube.
You park at a really big parking lot at the bottom. You can theoretically get a bus there if you want to camp out overnight. And then you get on the ski tube.
Which is a giant subway train for skiers with a cog rail on it.
Yeah, there's no other way to get to the resort.
There's no other way to get to the resort. And no one has died from this. Everyone is fine. And it's extremely environmentally friendly, or would be if you didn't have to drive your car to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
And we could do this. And because of the way that cog trains work, if we were feeling ambitious enough, we could actually connect it to the tracks network and then run trains directly from any terminus of tracks up the mountain. So you could, plausibly get on a train at City Center track station in downtown Salt Lake City and step off at Alta.
Which would be brilliant.
Yeah. Well, you could even just buy buses anyway. Run express bus service from central terminals.
Sure.
To the base of the canyon.
Sure.
If you didn't want to connect the train, which they wouldn't.
You want to connect the train.
You want to, but they wouldn't.
And the funny thing is that Stadler
They
actually
wrote a proposal.
presented a proposal doing directly that, connecting tracks directly to the cog train up 72nd South.
Yeah.
To UDOT. They presented it to them, and UDOT decided, of course, to ignore it.
What were Stadler's cost numbers compared to UDOT's?
I believe that Stadler's cost numbers were in the same ballpark as UDOT's.
That's good, at least.
I love Stadler.
Meaning that it would be $1.5 billion for the whole shebang, which includes, I should mention, a fully functioning tracks line up 72nd South, which would probably be a great value add for the region.
And would be a big and expensive undertaking in and of itself.
Well, and replacing... Well, because that's the main issue that was in the proposal, was that the train would... You need to expand...
That's the assumption that you can't just do the train, which you could.
You literally do no damage. It's only positives if you were able to tear up the road and replace it with tracks.
Well, and here's another thing that I think people should consider with regards to the cog train proposal. The front-runner line to Park City is never going to happen because the grades are weird, the alignment is horrible for modern trains, yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. So what would probably be a better long-term solution for regional transportation is to have a tracks line that is capable of actually running up Cottonwood Canyon and through the mountain to Park City as a really true long-term regional transportation option.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that you could, conceivably, but that's not something we're even considering because we are thinking really small. If we were Switzerland, we might have already built something like that because that's the sort of thing they build there, and it's entirely possible for us to do the same. So, once again, their whole alternatives process was flawed. They're thinking extremely small, and they're failing to consider that this could be, even beyond serving the resorts and trailheads with flag stops and things like that, a really transformative transportation project for the region if we let it.
And never mind that a train is a literally better way of transporting heavy equipment and construction materials for the resorts.
And a lot of people, too.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
A tracks train has a capacity of close to 800 people. Get rid of skis and put in skis, and a 4-car tracks train can probably carry 600 people, which is an entire hour's worth of buses. You can run 4 of those an hour, and you have So I am once again frustrated by American transit and transportation agencies' refusal to think really long term about how this sort of thing could benefit us. Also, the gondola will require a linear transfer at Snowbird to get onto Alta,
Yes,
which
it
is
will.
fun.
That's hilarious. We love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love the idea of replacing the road with the cog rail, but I think just in terms of anything actually happening, I think
Even if we're not...
closing the road
much
is
more palatable.
That's just more
Yeah.
possible because I can't ever see.
And
the
even
cog
if
rail.
we're not...
That would be the
Yeah.
best option.
And most of the time the best option never happens.
Yeah.
So.
And even if we're not going to ever actually build this cog train road replacement, it probably should have been in the alternatives analysis instead of just like a train. Those cost money, and there's only one way to build it.
Yeah,
We're UDOT. We don't know how trains
the most
work.
destructive way possible so that it gets eliminated immediately.
So has anyone actually proposed closing the road? Because I've never heard that before.
Stadler.
Stadler had a side of the road alignment proposed. Yeah, I read their proposal.
That's correct, but unlike UDOT, theirs did not involve destroying everything.
Concept.
But I mean, has anyone proposed closing the road for only buses?
Not seriously.
That feels
Because
A
that feels.
lot of advocates obviously have, but
Nobody
the
who...
clientele of skiers is primarily a very rich clientele, myself included, obviously. My men's podcast wealth.
You're
And so
embezzling
there's a lot of
podcast money to have
pushback against
fun.
the idea that you can't drive your Chevy Suburban up the mountain.
Because it's your like constitutional right to drive a car whenever you want, wherever you want, when without traffic or weather delays.
Yeah, idea. Rich person bus.
Oh, gold
Segregation of the classes.
You could do that. You could do a bougie bus
The
with like...
poor's
You
a
could-
different door than the rich people.
You could make someone pay $1,000 to go up the road in there.
You could do like, I don't know if you can run coach buses, but you could at least do like an all-seating bus with like ski valet that costs like an extra $20,
See-
and then use that money to fund regular operations.
For Cograil, you could run a train with different
Different
class cars. To be honest. No, but like you actually could and charge more and have more
There's
clientele.
like a champagne bar in
No, like
That's comical for how short this route is.
I mean,
but-
it's a half hour.
Yeah, that's plenty of time to down some champagne before you hit the slopes. You know what
and
everybody
not drive
says?
home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what everybody says, skiing is more fun drunk.
I've never heard anyone say
All the people I've seen
A lot
skiing
of
with
people say
beers.
that.
I believe that's well. I guess if you crash, you feel less pain.
Gwyneth Paltrow be like,
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, yeah. If only we could get ski resorts on the side of closing the road.
If only the
ski resorts being veiled.
If only the ski resorts would pay for whatever transportation solution we want. If
that is another issue.
The
is
ski
that
resorts-
The state is paying to
Yeah,
subsidize
which is
if
that-
the
that's
ski
one of my
resorts
main
wanted
issues.
to set up a consortium, get maybe some private investors, and fund the construction of a gondola to their ski resorts, which is what UDOT's gondola would be, it just goes to the ski resorts, then I don't think I'd be morally opposed to UDOT like granting them land
we're
access.
spending $500 million taxpayer dollars building something that will benefit a very small group of people.
So, yeah, I'd
Public-
have no issue if it was just private equity paying for
Yeah.
it. And then we could still do our own bus
Yeah.
thing. And
Public
Again-
infrastructure should benefit the general public.
And not just a narrow group of the general public.
Yeah.
that's crazy.
You don't really build like a grade separated interstate highway to like one factory,
One guy's house.
one guy's house.
Well, you kind of do sometimes, but
Yeah,
that
Boeing.
depends on the size of the
Boeing
factory.
or whatever.
Yeah, but
Well, I mean, the IDOT in Idaho is building a whole new interchange for the Amazon facility in Nampa, so
That's hilarious.
yeah, see the thing with that is you get development following the highway, but you wouldn't get any development following the gondola. Like
Yeah.
at all. It's impossible.
Because that's true if you build a grade separated
I
interstate
do
in one
think
place.
there are probably fringe benefits that we're not considering, and it will probably help with economic growth and development, but like...
But to what a degree more than better solutions that are just better.
yeah.
Like, sure, you
So-
might have people riding the gondola, but they can just go to Snowbird and ride that gondola.
Yeah. Take the
So-
bus to ride the
Is it
gondola.
Snowbird? Yeah,
But that's not a
Snowbird.
gondola.
Hell,
that's an aerial
build-
tram. Those are
Well,
different.
I know, but who's keeping track?
For all the
right?
hell I care, build a gondola from Park City to the Little Cottonwood.
That is actually in the long-term plans, if you believe it.
Cool.
Is to
that one makes more
try and
sense.
use it as a regional transportation tool.
Because that
Well,
would be a
and-
place where it makes physical sense.
Well, and
Except-
guardsmen's.
Except it doesn't make any sense because you still have to drive to get to the gondola.
Well, if we had the actual functioning bus service.
But
Or
do you
cargo.
really want a system with 2 linear transfers to get from Park City to Cottonwood Heights?
I'm not sure it would actually be that bad given the highway alternative, which is less direct.
Is it less direct?
Yeah, you gotta go all the way up Parley's. instead
But
of up
Parley's
Little
goes
Summer.
into downtown.
Oh yeah, except
Yeah.
in summer, that's true.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, yeah, there's a lot to think about. and
Gondola is probably mostly a scam.
Yeah.
Also,
And thankfully the county council has put off building it until 2040 right now, but a lot of people are pushing very hard for it, so we'll see if that holds.
yep. And
So I know
someone needs to propose seriously
Yeah.
propose closing the road because
So-
I think you could get a lot more people on board.
At Curtis Herring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know UDOT has immediate plans to start doing road tolling, which I hope aren't being put off till 2040. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, those should happen tonight.
Do they have? Are there any plans to amp up bus service in the short term? Because all these alternatives call for during construction
No.
more buses.
We still have a
Right.
big
because
operator.
car.
Well,
We have an
the
operator shortage,
shortage
Kyle.
Yeah.
mainly. If UTA could do it, they would do it, but they can't do it, so they shan't do it.
That was very good.
Thank you.
So, do you want to read the conclusion?
Sure.
And then
Yeah.
we can do patrons,
Yeah.
and then I can go pee.
So, conclusion. Although the county council has put off building the thing until 2040, there's a substantial pressure to get it done sooner. I'm not saying that the gondola is the worst option. Doing nothing is far worse. But we need to re-examine the choices and assumptions that UDOT made, which were very bad, when when conducting their initial environmental review. And I guess that's that. We'll see what happens, because I'm sure the discussion's going to amp up a lot more in the fall.
Oh,
Or
yeah, because we're going to have 30-minute ski bus service again this year.
Oh yeah, wasn't that one of the elective changes?
They can't.
The contingency
They
changes?
can't do it. They're barely managing to run OGX at this point.
When are they going to fix their hiring process?
Never.
Is the board going to do anything about anything?
what board?
I am not allowed to comment on that as a UTA employee.
Yeah, that's fair.
Also, what board?
The three-member board
do they-
appointed by the Utah state government.
I love my
That-
favorite government.
The government
Yeah.
that the governor
Scam.
has pretty direct control over.
And the church.
Shh.
Super majority, if you like. Well, anyway, thank you to our patrons for letting us do conspiracies.
About the gondola.
And talk about stuff we care about and are very interested in. And
To title this episode, the Little Cottonwood Canyon Gondola is a driving project.
yeah,
No,
or
we're not doing that for every episode.
yeah.
Okay, but it would be funny.
Okay.
Yeah, our patrons are
At $69.69 a month, super duper double track front runner to Park City tier through Little Cottonwood Canyon via Cog Rail. Zach Adams. At regular front runner tier, we have Curtis Herring, Devin Zander, Mike Christensen, and Phobos 2390. Thank you.
yeah, and Red Line tier $5 a month. We have Brian Smith, Christopher Whaley, DJ
Hi, Will.
Watkins, Generic GT,
That was
Jacob
pathetic.
Whitecott, Reluctant LA Resident, Robert P. Walsh, Scott Harris. Yep, that's you guys.
Thanks, Redline. And at Blue Line tier, we have Alex Dykelski, Ben Busath, Bradley Bondi, Elijah Kensler, Ethan McDonald, Evelyn, G4, Gonza 12, Jack Dean, Jesse Mayo, John Heron Gorman, Martine Hecker Martinez, Matt Gray, Old Trolley, and Seth.
And at our Green Line tier, $1 a month, we have Patrick Salas.
Yeah, well,
Thanks,
exciting.
everybody.
thank you all. And
Metro
Gondola
is
tier
being
when?
edited. Gondola tier 1. Yeah, that'll be our $100 tier.
because it's going to be so expensive.
Yeah. Also, the cost to ride a gondola, I don't think we mentioned that, has been quoted at like $35 a ride.
Yeah,
so.
which...
Maybe if there was a cheaper way to get up the canyon that required less capital and operations expenses.
Concept.
And just a crap ton of road maintenance, which we do anyways. Like, I know buses destroy roads at, like, an incomprehensibly high rate. But, like, with the amount of maintenance UDOT already does on that road, just related to weather and wear and tear, would not be an issue.
Well, in the amount of cars that you would hopefully be taking off the road.
Yeah,
Inshallah.
How much more road damage does a bus do on a car? Just fully loaded bus would be even more, but we're talking like 500 times as much road damage.
Yeah, so take off 500 cars for
I
each.
think that there may be more damage done by cars than there are by roads, than by buses on Little Cottonwood Canyon.
Especially
currently, but in the hypothetical future when we're comparing passenger capacity.
That's true.
when buses get, cars get smaller,
But what
not
about
bigger.
damage per unit of passenger capacity, I wonder?
Well, because you'd need like 25 to 50 cars to equal one of these buses. So we're talking like 10x road damage maybe. Which
10x isn't bad.
Which again is fine given how many like weather related repairs and repavements they have to do.
Almost like the train would it would damage the road because there would be
not-
no road.
Oh, good one.
Yeah.
Damage roads put trains on them.
Damage roads to the point where you have to take them
Yeah,
up.
you guys can add more banter if you want, but I gotta pee.
Have
Okay.
fun peeing. I'll meet you outside the bathroom.
Right.
I hate having the same conversation over and over so many times. Just run some damn buses.
Yeah. I thought we meant the conversation where we're like, oh, we should do this, and then it's never going to happen.
No, that one I'm capable of ignoring. A little bit of cognitive dissonance never hurt anybody.
Well, okay. Yeah. I just wish people would think more about the alternatives they
UDOT
propose.
should be taking the lead on this. We know the stance of the general public, and we know that that stance is pretty much mostly a result of UDOT's infrastructure investments and the state's infrastructure investments.
Mhm.
Like in New York, do people love driving everywhere? No, because they invest in trains, not highways.
Mhm.
Here, we're continuing to invest massively in highways, which directly affects consumer preference.
Yep.
Like, I'm all for advocacy, but UDOT should be taking the lead on this transportation solution project.
See, the thing is, I feel like they're scared of actually trying something different because they know people might actually like it.
I don't know what their reason is for that. Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense.
Because, like, it doesn't make sense for them to be...
The
it's just so weird.
My
It's like,
son-
why wouldn't you try something new?
My cynical explanation is that UDOT always has an alarming self-interest in more vehicle miles traveled, or whatever metric you want. So whatever keeps people hooked on driving and keeps people driving everywhere all the time, whether they should or shouldn't, is in UDOT's interest. Hence, why would we narrow Straight Street? Hence, why would we significantly limit car traffic up Little Cottonwood? Hence, why would we toll any highway ever? Hence, why would we stop widening I-15? Hence, why would we stop building new freeways in the middle of nowhere that get crap all any ridership?
See, I just wish we'd have a smarter legislature because we could just give them less money and then they'd have to be smarter about what they want to do. And maybe they'd be like, okay, we should shrink that road so we don't have to pay so much on maintenance.
Yeah.
And maybe we would start getting more stuff done
Because
if they had less money.
the legislature controls the UDOT funding levers and the UTA funding levers.
They pretty much write a blank check for
They
UDOT.
do. Like we've seen the I-15 expansion and like the Mountain View corridor and all that, and all the EIS's funding.
Oh.
Funds have already been appropriated.
Yeah, which...
We're going to build it. So the legislature basically writes them $1 billion a year blank check.
Yeah.
Whereas UTA has to beg for money and do grant applications and work with the federal government and work with the community and actually do the EIS process for every single project. They don't get a blank check. They just get to like scrape bits of the operations funding and use them. use them to fund capital projects. OGX, Mid-Valley Connector.
Can I ask you a Mormon question?
Yeah?
Why aren't Mormons more into community and actually maybe wanting equity for people in relation to transit?
It's mostly infrastructure and the situation they're in thing. Because growing up in Draper, the amount of like community that happens like inside my church ward, that's kind of like the unit of